Hello, family, and welcome to another episode of Role Model Experts Cafe. I'm your host, Dr. L, the parent whisperer, and today with me, I have an amazing human being, Mr. Ted Behr. Did I say your name right, Ted?
Yep,
Awesome.
just like the Grizzlies.
Very cool. Awesome. I've had the opportunity to speak with him a couple of times, and I really love how he shows up in the world and his message. And I wanted you guys to hear about it. So thank you, audience members, for tuning in. And thank you, Ted, for taking time out of your busy day to be here with us today. So tell us a little bit more, Ted, about who you are, what you do, and why you do what you do.
Okay, so I've been coaching. I've been coaching for 24 years. Before that, I worked in the mental health field as an administrator. I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio. I went to graduate school in Boston, stayed there 55 years, and 2 years ago I moved down to Ecuador because I thought time for a new adventure.
So you went from all these cold areas to this kind of tropical or
Well, it's
subtropical.
not. Well, here it's like eternal spring.
Oh, nice. I
It's
like that.
like average low is 50, average high is 70 year
Yeah,
round.
right.
Yeah.
All right, very cool. You're actually
So
in a fairly high altitude compared to,
8,400 feet is pretty high.
right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Awesome. So how did
So
you end up moving and why do you do what you do?
let me tell you how I got into coaching.
Absolutely.
Um, so one thing I've always been, I don't know, interested just helping people. If I have something to offer, and this is going way back. And that's part of it, because that's kind of maybe some of the foundation. But in 1995, I was involved in what was called the men's movement or men's work. And I did a bunch of seminars. And at the end of one seminar, the leader said, "Well, okay, what are you going to do with what you've learned when you get home?" And I
Mhm.
thought, what I want to do is I want to make this available to other men. I'm going to start a support group. So when I got back, I talked to a friend. I knew the therapist. He used her office. I made flyers, put them around, and I get a call from this guy who says, a, a phone message. He says, "I'm not really interested in your course, but you see people privately." And I'm not a therapist. I don't have any of those credentials.
Mm.
But I had been just sort of hearing about this thing called coaching. It was new. It was I seeing some articles here and there. So I kind of had the presence of mind to say, well, no, I'm not a therapist, so I can't do that. But if you're interested in a coaching consulting relationship, call me back.
Mm.
He called me back. We talked. He became my first coaching client before I ever thought about becoming a coach. So I met with him every week, every other week. We talked. He paid me. Cool. So at the time, I was unemployed, and I was looking around for jobs, and I decided during the summer to go out to this holistic health center in Western Massachusetts and do something called their holistic health teacher training. And I was learning a lot of things about, one of the things is how to start a business.
Mm.
But I wasn't really thinking that too much. But the last day they had a guest who talked about how he started his coaching business. And I've been looking for a job for 2 years, almost 2 years. And I thought, maybe I've got to do something on my own. And as I said, I've been hearing about coaching, and I actually knew a guy who worked for one of the main coaching training organizations. So I called him. I said, "When's your next introductory weekend in Boston?" He said, "Well, we just canceled the one for September, so it's going to be mid-November. I said, where else do you have one in September? He said, we've got one in Hamilton, Ontario.
Mm.
I said, sign me up. I was chomping at the bit, right? So I flew up to Toronto, got out to Hamilton, and did this 2.5 day workshop, which I loved. I loved what we were learning. I loved the other students. I loved the trainers. I was in love with coaching and particularly this organization. And I signed up for a 1 year certification program. And was really the start of my coaching career. And then I came home and started calling people and trying to get clients, and that's how I got started. Now, why do I do it? It's like I said at the beginning, helping people, and with coaching is such a powerful way to give people an opportunity to change their lives. I would say to change their life, but give them the power to change their lives. Work with them to change their life to be more of what they really want. And I
So
just
Ted,
love doing that.
One of the things about our audience members is they're parents, right? And with parenting comes a lot of coaching, comes a lot of responsibility of improving this other life. And so it would be nice to get paid for it for a change, right?
Absolutely. It was great,
Right.
Um,
And
I
how is
had
the
been I had been on
flexibility
the
of
other end. I had been in therapy and paying the therapist.
right? Exactly. How is the flexibility of your job at this point with the coaching?
I mean, I'm work for myself, so I can do what I want when I want.
Right.
Obviously, I've got commitments, places I've got to be,
Right.
courses I'm taking, and coaching sessions, but there's a lot of flexibility,
Right.
which I really like.
Cool.
Um,
So, Ted, I have a question. When it comes to, we're talking about the topic of coaching, for instance, what are some of the challenges that people tend to see when they are considering or contemplating starting a business in coaching?
wow, well, huh. So I can tell you some of the challenges that people bring people to coaching. This is not
Mhm.
quite about starting a coaching business. I think that's a whole other conversation.
Right.
Um, but some of the things that bring people to coaching is difficulty getting things done,
Mhm.
disorganization in their offices, homes and offices,
Right.
clutter, all that stuff. And most importantly, is negative beliefs and ways of thinking that are getting in their way.
Right.
And I think of the work I do with people around all the tasks that we work on, the most important thing I do with them is working with them to change what goes inside their mind. Because if that doesn't change, all the other stuff that won't happen.
Right. Now, I know we're getting a little bit off topic here, but you mentioned that when you went to the seminar, it was about helping men. So tell me a little bit more about that. Are you still focused in the same area, or have you done coaching in other areas since?
No, that was before I was doing coaching. I was there as a participant.
Mhm.
Um, essentially it was like coming out of the women's movement and men wanting to learn about ourselves,
Right.
more about ourselves, because men are oh, I don't have feelings, you know. So it was personal growth, personal development, um, and so there I was there as a participant. I wasn't leading anything. The leading part came to me when I was there, as I said, and then I brought it home, and that's when I started sent out that email. I started the group. I did a couple of groups,
Mhm.
but also got me into the coaching training, and coaching business.
All right. So you mentioned about the challenges and everything.
Hmm.
And is that what you typically see? But then when people want to really kind of sink their teeth into it and start working towards it, there's oftentimes challenges that you have to realign your life and who you are so that you can kind of start moving in the right direction. What are some of those challenges?
Well, I think one is getting clarity about what is going on in their life, what they want, what's their vision for their life,
Mhm.
uh, what's in the way of them achieving that, making that real. And then it's getting more detailed in terms of, okay, what are the specific issues that this person has, and setting like and having them create a vision for their life and to create an action plan, but it's kind of focused around their primary goals, right? And as we get into that, we'll get more specific. We'll look at specific things that are going on and help them if they're stuck or don't know what to do. But as I said, the primary thing I do throughout is what's kind of education, but it's teaching, it's giving people a process to change what's going on inside their head.
Is
Um,
coaching something that is it a skill that people can develop, or do you have to have like special skills and talents that you're born with? Or is that something that you can
oh,
train on, or
oh yeah. I mean, the training I did was actually very skill based.
Mhm.
So, learning how to be present with somebody.
Right.
Um, I can't even think some of the things that we learned, but it was all learning skills. It wasn't learning techniques or programs. It was what are the skills you need, to help somebody,
Okay.
to, keep them on track,
Mhm.
to bring out their creativity, all these different things. It,
So I have
it,
this question that if somebody was to contemplate coaching,
right?
would they like, is it ever a question that's what do I have to teach people, or is it that you just have to be there for the person as a soundboard, or is it a combination of both? um, what's your experience? Is it something that people come in and then they figure out what it is that they're good at, or is it something that they know they're good at and they want to help a certain way and they come to learn the skills of how to coach?
I think probably it's both. There's some people who come in much more uh, certain about what they can do and what they want to accomplish, and other people say, I want to help people. This coaching thing sounds really interesting. I don't know much. I'd like to find out more about it. And that was me, you know. And going to that weekend just opened everything up for me. I mean, the certification program was a year, and it was fairly intense. And it was really all focused on learning skills and practicing them. And we were in little pods, and we practiced with each other. And so there's a lot of learning. Whichever way you start, there's a lot of learning to be done. And there are people who kind of just will hang out a shingle and say, I'm a coach,
Mhm.
or they'll go someplace in a 5-day workshop, and they get out of that workshop and they're told, okay, you're now a certified business coach. That's dangerous because people aren't really learning. Because things can get pretty hairy at times with people
Right.
when they get deep into stuff, and you need to be able to be there for them and have a skill of like bringing them back out of that hole they've fallen into,
Mhm.
and that
So
that takes some knowledge and skill.
So Ted, you're talking about skills, and of course, and one of the things I wanted to mention is because I do some coaching myself, and I'm
Mhm.
oftentimes split between the multiple projects, and as you know, I have ADHD. So, tell me a little bit more about because I know that you do talk about this. Tell us a little bit more about that as well.
I'm sorry, about ADHD or?
About people living with ADHD and how to be productive.
Oh, wow. Well, first thing to say is it's not easy. Um, and when I'm working with somebody with ADHD, we kind of start out the same as I start with anybody. It's like, okay, what do they want in their life? What's in the way? But I also do an ADHD assessment to find out what are the specific issues they have.
Hmm.
Um, there's a checkoff list and stuff. So I kind of know what to look for. And then we set priorities. We look at that and say, okay, what are the things here that are really most important to focus on that are going to have the most impact for somebody? But it's work, no question about it. Because, and I talked about the sort of inner voice. People with ADHD, a lot, I would say probably most people with ADHD have a lot of negativity in that voice because of how they were treated as children, as young adults, and coming away thinking like there's something wrong with them.
Hmm.
I'm lazy, whatever. That all that stuff has to be wiped out, has to be moved out, and more positive view of themselves, substitute for that. And again, also, I said I've been doing this for 24 years, and I've been doing that for 24 years, and I use a process that they taught us in coaching training, and I'm using the same process today.
So, what are some of the tips and secrets, I guess, for our audience members that if they're watching this right after this, they can go ahead and take action on and do?
Sure. So I'll go back to the uh, challenges that you asked about.
Sure.
So uh, a couple things to help get things done, because that's a huge issue for people with ADHD
Right.
is staying focused and getting things done. So for somebody who's having trouble getting is kind of stuck with something that they want to do, I say just start. Not do it, just start. 5 minutes. Take a step. 5 minutes. Do something. Because if you spend 5 minutes on it today, tomorrow, I think maybe I'll do another 5 minutes tomorrow, maybe 10. So that's like creating momentum, but it's
Mm.
got to get them moving, right? Because things at rest stay at rest, and bodies and emotions stay in motion. So that's one thing, is if you're stuck, just start. Find some way to start.
Hmm.
um, for Another thing in terms of sort of time management, planning their day, people make this huge to-do list, all the things they're going to do that day, most of which they never get to. And let's say they put 10 things on the list and they do 5 of them. Well, they failed because there are 5 things they didn't do.
Right.
That's not good for them. So what I've learned is take the 3 most important things that you need to accomplish in that day, put those on your to-do list, nothing else,
Mm.
and start with the most important and work through those 3 things. And then if you complete them and you've got more time, then you can think of like, okay, what else is important I need to do? But if they put those 3 things on their list and they actually do 5 things, that's a success. Or if they do those 3 things, that's a success. And people need to experience success,
Right.
particularly people with ADHD, because
Right.
they've had so many failures. So that's another tip. In terms of disorganization, create a vision of your home or office, of how you want it to look when you're done organizing it. And keep that vision present for you. Vision is very powerful in terms of our subconscious. The more we have are clear and we keep watching it and thinking about it, that's one way that changes our inner mind, our thinking. So that's a piece of advice there. And then the last thing in terms of, well, also negative thinking, a couple of things. One, listen to the self-talk, get to know it, learn the things that you're saying to yourself. Because if you don't know, you can't change it.
True.
And the other thing is, stop using the words can't and shouldn't and should. I can't do it or I should do it are very negative words. They bring up negative emotions. Think of, okay, something that you think you should do, say, okay, I am going to do this, or I will do this, or I commit myself to doing this. But
Right.
say it in a positive way, so your thinking is positive about it.
Right. Speaking of thinking positive, that's one of the things a couple of years back I recognized about myself, that in my internal dialogue, I used to recount negative experience, and I would say it makes me so upset, or I get so pissed off, and I noticed these words keep creeping up, and then I also realized that there is an undertone of that in my personality because I'm constantly reliving that feeling. So in that process, I literally made a conscious choice of actually stopping to use those words, or even if I was in that state, try to use different words so that it wouldn't continue to perpetuate in my life and in other areas as well.
Yeah.
And it has made a profound impact. So I totally follow what you're saying with the mindset and how we talk to ourselves.
And language is very, very powerful. The language we use is very, very powerful. So just like this can't and won't and should,
Right.
get rid of those words that have a negative connotation.
Right.
And as you substitute positive words, we create a more positive point of view.
Right.
And you got to keep doing it and keep learning it. And as you said, it takes a while. It takes work to do that. But if you don't do that, you can do all these other things and they're not going to work because your mind is sabotaging you all the way through. It's stopping you, it's keeping you from doing things, it's making you feel bad. So that's why you have to work on that inner dialogue.
Absolutely. And the stuff that you're saying is actually really, really important. And, when I was growing up, ADHD wasn't a thing. There wasn't even a diagnosis for it. So many people just process differently and they never realize that they see the world in a different light. And when the results and the outcomes were different than all those other people around them, then they would think naturally that there's something wrong with them. So it is very, very important for especially not the current young generation, but actually the older generation, that they might have kids that are on the spectrum, or they're on the spectrum, but they never knew about it, or they know that they process differently, for them to have this extra support of understanding how to best utilize their gifts and improve their productivity and everything. So Ted, can you tell us a little bit more about how can people find out more about you and follow you and work with you?
Okay. So my website is www.livefullywithadhd.com. That's livefullywithadhd.com. It's a little out of date because I'm making some changes and I'm bringing more business work, focusing more on people in business than sort of general population. So the website doesn't reflect that. There's a lot of good information there about
Okay.
about
Thank you.
ADHD. And while on the website, you can sign up for my free report, The Secret to Getting Things Done. It says, though it says ADHD Guide, the content is applicable to anybody,
Right.
whether or not they have ADHD. And also when you sign up, that will put you on my mailing list, and you'll get the content and hear about the programs I'm doing uh, from the mailing list.
Mhm.
And anybody wants to set up a time to chat or just get in touch with me, my email is coachtedb@gmail.com. That's B as in boy, coachtedb@gmail.com. And that's how they get
Awesome.
in touch.
Very cool. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you for having that gift on your website as well. For our audience members, I will be putting those in the description box below. So make sure that you go ahead and take advantage of it. Click on that and go through those links and check it out. Seek support. Show your kids how to seek support. Very, very important to teach by example. And thank you guys for tuning in and watching this session. Ted, thank you for carving time out of your busy schedule to be here. I know that you love giving and you're an awesome coach. So thank you for the expertise that you've shared during this session. Any final words before we finish this?
Oh, wow. Um, well, you said something um, when you're talking about your experience of those negative thoughts and how what you did with them. You used the words conscious choice, and for me, if I had in 2 words say what coaching is about, it's about conscious choice,
Hmm.
not doing something because we think we should or we think we can, or it's like really consciously choose, because we're always choosing subconsciously. That comes from that inner voice. It's like bring that out in the open and think about making, what is it I want to do right now? You know,
Mhm.
am I doing the thing that I want to be doing right now, or that I ought to be doing right now? I'm like these words should. Um, so
Yeah, very true. Very true. That is like the starting point and your state of mind as well. I appreciate that. Guys, if you haven't already done so, make sure you click the subscribe button so that you get notified of the latest interviews and the developments here on the channel. And that way you also can benefit from the expertise of our experts, as well as the gifts and things that they bring to us. I appreciate you all. And thank you, Ted. We'll see you guys around. Cheers.